Howdy folks, firstly, really sorry about my voice. I've got a bit of a cold at the moment, but most of the voiceover was recorded before I got sick, so you won't have to put up with that for very long. It's been quite some time now since I've done any real guide content for new players for Project Zomboid. In fact, many of them are over 2 years old at this stage, so I figured it was about time I made something a bit more up to date. In this video, I'll be covering 101 tips for Project Zomboid, mostly aimed at new players, but even if you're a veteran, I'd bet you'll find one or two things you didn't know in this video. As always, drop the video a like if you find something useful, and subscribe for more content just like this. I'd like to say a very special thank you to the guys behind Nakwon Last Paradise for sponsoring this video, an extraction-based zombie survival game based in Seoul, South Korea. You'll find yourself living in the last shelter known to exist in a world devastated by a zombie outbreak. Stealth and using audio distractions to your advantage is incredibly important as you traverse dangerous surroundings looking for supplies to stay alive, doing your best to avoid an untimely demise at the hands of either zombies or other survivors looking to take what you've earned. If you do well, you'll earn higher citizen grades, which gives you access to better equipment, and with no laws or rules outside the settlement, you can choose how to approach that challenge. Maybe you'll loot, maybe you'll kill and steal. If you want to give this tense, cutthroat experience a try, Nakwon has a pre-alpha test coming soon on November 29th, so click the link in the description, wishlist the game, and you'll be ready to explore the streets of Seoul. You can also keep up to date with the game on Twitter or join their Discord to hear all about upcoming updates. Good luck, and thanks again to Nakwon for today's sponsor. At the very start of your game, start by looting the house you spawn in and sticking close to your spawn region. Things are naturally going to be a little bit quieter there, and you'll often find something you can use as a weapon, which will be a huge help for beginners. Watch Life and Living on any TV at 6 AM, 12 PM, and 6 PM. This is when TV shows will be playing that give you XP in various skills. Cooking skill is at 6 AM, carpentry at 12 PM, and survival skills at 6 PM. Reading books associated to skills before learning them will give you a massive XP multiplier for any XP gains. Some VHS tapes found in-game can be used to gain XP in skills. Some are obvious, like Carzone providing mechanics. Others are hidden, like Mother's Boy giving a single tick of Shortblade XP. Get familiar with Project Zomboid in vanilla, completely unmodded, before adding mods to the game. This will allow you to get a good grasp for the experience and appreciate the differences when you add mods later. Be aware that at the time of this video, there is a bug where car doors are left open despite them looking closed. This is a known issue that can easily lead to an untimely death. Locked doors can be smashed down by any weapon, but axes will always do this quicker than other weapon options. If there's a door you want to open that's locked, try luring zombies into the building and killing them until one drops a key. If a zombie dies in a building with a locked room, it has a chance to spawn the key for that locked door. If you have a key for a locked door, you can actually dismantle that door, transfer the doorknob to a crafted door of your own, and the same key will still work for the newly placed door you created. Essentially, keys are linked to the doorknob directly. If a window is locked, you can smash through it, but be sure you're using a weapon when doing so. Otherwise, your character will use their arm and risk cutting themselves, or worse, lodging glass in their arm. Once a window is smashed, you should remove the broken glass for the same reason. There is a small chance to cut yourself when doing this unless you wear gloves. Zombies will be drawn to noise, including generators placed at your safe house. Try to place them in a central location so they aren't near any zombies lurking outside your base. It always pays to have exterior walls for this reason. Using the walk to command on the right-click menu will automatically path your character through obstacles like trees, calculating the best path available. This can help you avoid scratches from wading through trees whilst escaping zombies if used effectively. In the vanilla Project Zomboid, the power and water are set to shut off between the times of 0 and 30 days. You should try to prepare accordingly by acquiring a generator, the knowledge to use one, and alternative water sources as quickly as possible. Some random radios in Project Zomboid will have the automated emergency frequency. This frequency is randomized, so writing it down when you find it can be a huge help later.
The automated emergency frequency will tell you the current weather, the weather for the next day, whether any harsh weather conditions are expected, like storms, and it also gives you a one-day warning ahead of the helicopter event arriving. The helicopter event works by spawning a large amount of zombies in your current area. Even if you avoid the helicopter itself, those zombies will still spawn, so it's important to be prepared. One of the best ways to avoid the helicopter event is to identify when it's arriving using a radio and then spending that day away from your base in a vehicle. Once it arrives, you can just drive around for a while until it moves on. When it does, return home safely and the large zombie spawns will be nowhere near your safe house. Otherwise, if you have no vehicle available, you can cover your safe house windows with curtains or sheets, and this will cut off the helicopter's line of sight. Do this, spend the time indoors reading skill books or completing other tasks in the comfort of your safe house, and be ready to clear large zombie hordes when the helicopter is gone. Turning on lights can attract zombies, another good reason to cover your windows with sheets or curtains, even on the upper floors of your safe house. One tried and tested method for keeping zombies from accessing your safe house is to base on a second floor and use a sledgehammer to knock out the stairs. Just make sure you have spare sheet ropes, nails, and a hammer available to make alternative ways to access your base. Zombies can knock down sheet ropes left hanging from windows. Be aware of this risk when using the last tip at your safe house. The Louisville checkpoint is a tough hurdle to overcome for those wanting to explore the city. Bring something capable of smashing through the gates, such as an axe or a sledgehammer, and a vehicle to drive through before the hordes can get on top of you. Alternatively to my last tip, there's a hole in the fence line that contains Louisville to the corner of the map. This lies to the east along a dirt path. When attempting to visit Louisville for the first time, make sure you come prepared. Expect many more zombies than you've seen elsewhere and have a planned destination in mind for a safe house in the area. Make sure to bring plenty of weapons. Keeping a good sleep schedule in Project Zomboid is important to avoid dangerous outings at night. You can set an alarm using any watch. I'd suggest using this to wake your character just before the 6 AM Life and Living show. When the water has shut off, you can build a rain collector above any sink, toilet, or other running water source to provide fresh, clean water that doesn't need to be purified. You can barricade windows from the inside to reduce the risk that zombies will path to them. If you place them on the outside of a window, there is an increased chance that zombies will path over to them and start to destroy them. If you want to go to maximum protection of your safe house, you can barricade both sides of any window to put a total of 8 barricades between you and the infected. Or you can place 2 barricades on each side to ensure you can still use the window for vision. In the event that your carpentry skill isn't high enough to build rain collectors when the water mains shut off, look out for water coolers in office buildings or other government buildings like fire or police stations. These hold 250 units of water and can be a great way to mitigate water problems until you can build a permanent solution. If you can't find any water coolers, your next best bet is to collect water using any cooking pots, bowls, or any other containers you have, then boiling it over a fire or in an oven. This will create clean, drinkable water. Umbrellas can actually be used in your secondary hand slot to stop rain from hitting your character, as well as being used as a weapon. It seems simple, but often overlooked. Radios and televisions can be played to reduce stress and anxiety, but be careful. Often news reports can do the opposite as they tell the story of unfolding chaos due to the outbreak. In your Project Zomboid settings, you can turn on the aim outline for all weapons. This will make zombies in range of your attacks appear green and can help when learning how to fight in the early stages of the game especially. Keep in mind this only refers to distance, and you can still miss your attacks if you turn your character too far outside of the swing arc of your weapon. Traits are a highly debated topic in Project Zomboid, but some that I consider to be freebies for new players are prone to illness, weak stomach, and slow healer. Sickness is only caused by infected wounds, which are preventable. Weak stomach only affects you if you eat rotten or burnt food. And as for slow healer, almost every serious wound is entirely preventable or avoidable once you know their causes. Good traits for new players to pick that are beneficial to your character include Fast Learner for more XP gains in everything you do, Strong or Stout for more carry weight and higher attack damage, and finally Brave for reduced panic in combat. To level the electrical skill quickly, gather all of the watches you find from zombies. They are incredibly easy to carry in large amounts, meaning they can be dismantled en masse for huge XP gains. If you manage to pick up the Common Cold in Project Zomboid, bring toilet paper or tissues and place them in your secondary slot. Your character will use them to mute their sneezes and thus prevent them from attracting zombies. Several random survivor stories can spawn in the world, such as the very rare Jason Voorhees zombie with a hockey mask and machete, or more common occurrences like house fires with firefighter vehicles outside. Almost all of these scenarios have useful items in some way or another. If you're missing a torch or a flashlight in the darker hours, especially indoors where the game can be at its darkest, consider using a lighter. You won't get much light from it, but it will allow you to see at least a small radius around your character.
You can gain extra XP whilst cooking by first cooking ingredients individually, before then adding them to dishes that you'll cook again. It sounds simple, but a lot of players overlook this one as a chance to gain extra XP.
Using fences or windows during combat can be beneficial. Wait for the zombie to climb over and time your attack right to get an instant kill whilst they're on the ground. When fighting large amounts of zombies, we want to try and stagger their approach so you're only dealing with one at a time. Mix in spacebar pushes with your regular attack to push away multiple zombies at once. Backpedal whilst fighting to buy you time, and use obstacles to slow them down. Zombie aggro works by line of sight and memory, not distance. If a zombie loses sight of you, it will remember your last seen location for a short period of time and will continue to pursue. For this reason, loop around buildings, through trees, or anything else that cuts off line of sight instead of just running away. If you can loop round to the area you picked up the zombie aggro, even better, as this space will often now be cleared of zombies since you've dragged them away. A great video for learning how zombie aggro works is linked in the description and is absolutely worth a watch, being something many new players struggle with most. Blunt weapons will not damage clothing. Keep this in mind if you spot a zombie with a leather jacket or bulletproof vest that you want to keep intact to wear for yourself. If you can get close to a zombie from behind with a short blade weapon, you can perform an instant kill. This can also sometimes happen when a zombie is approaching, but it's a bit more difficult to time it right. Watch for your character's offhand raising up as an indication that this is possible. Spears also have a special attack. If you sprint for a short time, your character will lower his spear to use it in a charge attack. Let go of the sprint key and this will happen automatically. You can walk faster than most zombies, which can drastically help to preserve your stamina. Fatigue can mean death of your character, so use jog sparingly and avoid sprinting altogether. There are a couple of good ways to clear hordes of zombies, one being the campfire method. Make a campfire, then lure the zombies over said fire, and they'll spread it between themselves. Eventually, this will lead to the death of all the zombies in the area. Your blood pressure might be up at the end of it though. Most guns in Project Zomboid can't be used efficiently until higher levels. The best weapons to use at low-level aiming skills are shotguns and the M36 revolver. Both of these weapons are easiest to use at low levels, resulting in more hits and thus more XP gains. If you're planning to use firearms for clearing zombies, bring much more ammo than you feel you'll need. You will always end up attracting more zombies than you expect, and you'll rattle through ammo incredibly quickly. Weapon jams can occur more frequently the lower the condition of your weapon. To clear these quickly, rather than going through menus, press X. Shotguns and revolvers, unlike any other firearm in the game, cannot jam, even if their condition is very low. Keep in mind that if you choose to put attachments on your weapons, everything above a red dot sight in terms of magnification will actually make your weapons less effective at close range. Choose carefully when applying them. If you sustain a wound such as a scratch or laceration, make sure to change the bandage regularly to avoid infection. These need to be changed more often after the wound first occurs, since it will bleed more regularly. If you do get an infection, you can clean the wound with alcohol wipes, take antibiotics, or use sterilized bandages to fight it before it causes illness. Bandages can be sterilized either by using a bottle of disinfectant, alcohol like bourbon, or if you don't have either of these, boiling some water in a cooking pot and using that to sterilize the bandages instead. You can train first aid skill easily by walking over broken glass with bare feet and then fixing those wounds repeatedly. You'll need to rest in between and keep the bandages clean to avoid further complications. When you get a wound, it's always worth checking it immediately on the health panel. Whilst most wounds bleed slowly and can be patched up after you get out of danger, neck wounds bleed incredibly quickly and can mean death in no time at all. Panic is caused by high amounts of zombies, or if your character is surprised by the sudden presence of a zombie. Panic causes a decrease in critical hit chance, a slight reduction in weapon damage, and at extreme levels of panic, a narrower field of view. Beta blockers are often a quick remedy for panic in a pinch. Stress is caused by prolonged presence around high amounts of zombies. If your character is potentially infected, waking up due to night terrors, or having not smoked in a while with the smoker traits, it will cause slight reductions to melee damage that increases with each level and causes your character to become unhappy. The unhappy moodle is caused by prolonged stress, boredom, or the consumption of certain food items. This makes all timed actions slower at increasing amounts per level, including equipping weapons, looting, crafting, and so on. Literature items, alcohol, or food items can help with unhappiness. Spending high amounts of time around corpses is not advised and will cause your character to feel queasy, developing to sickness if not remedied, as well as making your character unhappy. Bury corpses in graves or conduct corpse burnings to avoid this. Level carpentry easily by crafting spears in the early levels. You can dismantle items if you'd like instead, but this is often frowned upon in multiplayer servers and doesn't give you much in return, since most of the time you won't dismantle them successfully. If you're chopping up logs for your safe house construction projects, the 4-stack of logs is the most efficient when it comes to weight reduction. It is considerably more efficient than sawing them into planks too. Plant crops with 2 tiles between them. In the event one of your crops picks up a disease, this will prevent that disease from spreading to the other crops until you're ready to deal with it. Farming is less productive during winter, with many crops unable to survive the winter months. Make sure you plan ahead and harvest your crops before then. Building composters as soon as possible to gather fertilizer is a great way to accrue worms for fishing, as well as increasing your crop yield. There are several food warehouses around the map, like these ones south of Louisville, containing massive amounts of fresh produce. They are unrefrigerated, so will often be rotten by the time you get to them, making them fantastic for composters without using your own food supply. There are 3 types of diseases for crops in Project Zomboid, and each has a different cure. The 3 diseases are mildew, insects, and devil's water fungi. Mildew will cause your plants to grow at a slower rate and can be cured by combining milk with a spray can. You will need to read a magazine to learn this recipe or use the farmer occupation. Insects cause a plant to need much more water than its counterpart healthy plants. This can be cured using a spray can filled with 3 units of water and 5 cigarettes. Again, you'll need to read a magazine to learn this recipe or take the farmer occupation. Lastly, devil's water fungi causes smaller crop yields from infected plants. The cure is to keep the plant below 10% of the minimum water required for that plant type, which is complicated at the best of times. Instead, it's usually best just to remove this plant entirely to keep the rest of your crop safe and save that extra hassle. You can then replant another crop in its place. Plants will become harvestable during the second to last phase of their lifespan. There is one final stage called the seed-bearing stage that will give you more seeds to replant after, so it's often worth waiting for this stage unless you have an abundance of seeds available already. Fishing is less productive in the winter months. Fish at other times of the year to ensure you're stocked up for those winter months in advance. Fish between the hours of 4 AM and 7 AM or 6 PM to 9 PM to increase your chance to catch fish. This is when they are most active, and your catch rate will be increased by 10%. If you are pursuing fishing as a skill, keep hold of your fishing tackle until later levels. Whilst leveling, instead consider using worms or other insects. The worst bait is the bait fish, which is easily acquired but increases your chance of catching junk, whereas worms will increase the catch chances specifically for fish. Acquire worms by digging or using a composter. You can use crafted spears to fish in a pinch, which actually attempt to catch fish at a faster rate than fishing with a standard fishing rod, but have a significantly lower chance to actually make a successful catch. Tailoring can be leveled quickly in the early stages by ripping up lots of clothes from zombies. Do this until about tailoring level 3 with the help of skill books. After level 3, start to sew patches onto clothing and removing them again for XP. The best item to use for this are coveralls, as they have the most places to sew patches out of any clothing item. Leather patches provide the most protection of any patches available. Once you've found what you want to wear, these are your best option if you're concerned about extra protection for your gear. When it comes to the trapping skill, you need to place traps at least 50 tiles away from areas you are active in. If you place them too close to areas that you are active, you will not catch anything. Certain baits have higher chances to catch animals in traps than others. This depends on what animal you are trying to catch. For rabbits, the best bait is naturally carrots, but a full table is available on the Project Zomboid wiki. Rabbits are generally the best animals to catch as they have the most meat out of all the trappable animals in most cases. When foraging in Project Zomboid, now associated with the search function, you'll actually have different percentage rates to find item categories in different biomes. For example, medicinal plants are most commonly found in forests or deep forest biomes, whereas vegetables are most commonly found in farm and farmland biomes. Here is a full table from the Project Zomboid wiki representing these rates in different areas. Several other factors affect foraging, such as weather conditions or seasons. As an example, firewood is 50% easier to find in autumn or fall. Most berries, vegetables, or medicinal plants cannot be found in the winter months. When using the search function, things in the world as parts of the map design will actively affect what you find. For example, if you see some trash on the ground, you might find a garbage bag or a broken bottle here. If there's a crack in the tarmac, you're more likely to find things like chipped stones here. If you take the short-sighted trait in Project Zomboid, this will affect your search radius when using the search function. This can be remedied by simply wearing some glasses. Most foraged berries have a chance to be poisonous. You'll need to have picked the herbalist trait at the character creation screen to be able to identify them, or read the herbalist magazine. They will be marked with a green poisonous icon. However, blueberries and blackberries will never be poisonous and can be consumed freely. If you eat 1/4 of a poisonous berry, your character will survive. Any more than that and you're risking death, so be incredibly careful if you can't identify which berries are safe to eat. An easy way to level mechanics that only requires a screwdriver is to remove and replace the lights on every car you come across. Radios can be removed too without having the keys for the car. Vehicles have a few extra functions that many players don't know about. You can turn on the heater in the winter months or use it to blow cool air in the summer, for example. Cruise control on vehicles is available, and this can bypass the Sunday driver traits. Hold the shift key and press W to lock the vehicle at your current speed. Pressing it again will increase the speed in increments, and pressing S while still holding shift will decrease the speed in increments. Pressing W without holding shift will cancel the cruise control. If your character gets tired whilst on a scavenging run, you can often find a safe place to nap whilst on the road. Your vehicle will keep you relatively safe, and if a zombie does happen to see you, it'll wake you before it smashes the car window. If you want to be extra safe while sleeping in a vehicle, park the driver's side of the vehicle up against a wall or another vehicle. This will stop zombies pathing to the driver window, meaning zombies won't be able to reach you even if the window breaks. You can place large items on the back seats of cars, even if they exceed the displayed weight limit of that seat. This is great for things like generators or furniture items. Holding V inside vehicles will bring up a context menu. You can then use this to access a lot of extra functions like hot wiring or rolling down the windows. Burglar occupation characters can hotwire cars from day one. This is an incredibly useful perk for beginners that are just starting to survive their first few days and are struggling to find vehicles. If you don't pick the burglar occupation, you need level 2 mechanics and level 1 electrical to be able to hotwire vehicles. You can find the option to hotwire on the V context menu when sitting in a car. Vehicles can be directly refueled from the gas pump, but only from one side. For most vehicles, this is on the driver's side of the vehicle. Every vehicle in Project Zomboid has different benefits based on its category. Heavy vehicles will be louder, whereas smaller cars like hatchbacks will be much quieter, in a trade-off for the much lower storage capacity. Keys for vehicles can be found in 4 places: in the vehicle itself, on the ground nearby to the vehicle, on zombies that you kill, or in loot containers of nearby buildings, usually the building the vehicle is parked up next to or in front of. It's actually possible to move the camera out ahead of your car when driving. You can either open the window and use your aim key to look out ahead, or toggle on this option in your settings.
So that's 101 tips for Project Zomboid that you can take away for your next playthrough. But if you've got anything you want to add, as I'm sure there's plenty of stuff I've missed, drop it in the comments for other players and maybe you'll help someone who needs it. Lastly, I'd like to say a very special thank you to the players on our Patreon whitelisted server for supporting me, the channel, our mod commissions, and for just being awesome people. We're doing a wilderness survival theme at the moment for the month of November, and there's even been some towns forming after some incredibly hard work from the players, which is just awesome to see. If you want to join them, there's a link in the description to the Patreon. Thanks folks, and I'll see you all in the next one.